It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, everyone. This is Tyrone Lowe. This is my show, The Legends. And before I start my show, I want to thank everybody that actually subscribes, tune in, and check out the different platforms that this show consists of. And on my show today, I have somebody that's been on the show before, but we didn't have enough time to cover different sides of him. And today I bring you Duane Knight, a.k.a. Dr. Dee.
Hey, Mr. T. Tyrone, how are you, sir?
I'm quite well. How are you, man? Welcome
Good,
to
man.
The
I'm
Legends.
beautiful and blessed. I'm beautiful and blessed in this season. That's my motto.
Welcome to The Legends again.
Again, good to be back.
So what we're going to talk about, Dr. Dee wears many hats. You know, he's also a DJ.
Yeah.
One of the very first DJs, or you can say the first DJ
The original.
that actually did gospel house, you know, so a true legend, you know. But besides that, he has another side of him about some books that he's wrote.
Right.
And we're going to collaborate on some of those things. So, you know, Dr. Dee, tell the viewers, you know, about what really inspired you to really start writing.
Well, again, it's good to be on the show, Tyrone. Good to be back. We had so much fun last time, so I know we're going to have fun again. As Tyrone said, I'm one of the original 6 gospel DJs that started back in '79. And from that, in 1995, I started doing photography, mainly in the gospel music industry, all around the nation. And from the first day that I picked up the camera, I heard the Lord saying to me, shoot for the book, shoot for the book. And I really didn't know exactly what that meant, but I felt that that was my calling, that no matter what I was shooting, to shoot as if I was shooting for a book. And it wasn't until later on, actually in 2005, when I created my first photography book on the gospel music industry. It's called Carols, Volume 2. It's about special moments in gospel music. And that was the first book I created. And from that point, I've been kind of called a documentarian of the gospel music industry. Everything I do is somehow transform into a book at some point. So that's where I get the mission, the vision to create books. They're always based on my photos, and most of them are based on in the faith-based gospel music industry.
You know, dealing with that type of industry itself, you know, tell the viewers, how did you actually incorporate those people to actually take the photos, and what was their reactions behind that?
Well, like I said, I started off as a gospel DJ in 1979. In 1995, I started a dual dual projects. One, I became a radio announcer on radio. I started out at WHCR 90.3 FM in Harlem. And at the same time, and that opened the door for me as a radio announcer to get into the gospel music industry, to the GMWA, the Gospel Music Workshop of America, plus the GAG, which was the Gospel Announcers Guild. So being a radio announcer DJ, I was able to get access to a lot of the artists, their radio labels and stuff like that. So being part of the gospel industry as a radio announcer, I was also able to start shooting, use my photography skills as well. So that's how the door opened as a radio announcer / radio DJ, and from there having access to the artists, their showcases, their CD release parties, etc. I was able to photograph them on the, like you said, I wear many hats with the photography hat that I wore at the same time.
You know, before we get more into the photos, let's talk about WFUNK and how you actually got hooked up with that, and actually, what do you do?
Okay. Again, as I said before, in 1995, the Lord opened the door for me to be on WHCR 90.3 FM in Harlem City College. And I've been up there for the past 26, 27 years. About 3 years ago, um, Roberto Gooding, aka Dirty Fingers, approached me about him starting a digital broadcast radio station, and he wanted me to be part of the core team that helps run it. So he asked me to be the assistant program director, and specifically to take over the Sunday programming. And so for the last 3 years, we've been building up our Sunday programming and as well as the programming on the radio station. So the first of this year, we changed our name from WFNK to funknationradio.com.
Okay.
Again, that's funknationradio.com, which is on WTFSDB. DB is for digital broadcasting. So we are legally, I don't say legal, but we are officially, officially a digital broadcasting radio station now, on our way to becoming a charting station so that artists can be get their royalties as we play their music. So that's what I do now as far as the radio side of me. I'm still on HCR 90.3 FM, but for funknationradio.com, I'm the assistant program director for the past 3 years.
Okay, and that's kind of cool, you know, because I've been up there a few times, and I've been offered to play there a few times too, but my schedule never really, allowed me to. With Tina,
Yeah.
and I've been up there, and I've seen other guys come up there and they spin, and when they
Oh,
have the
yeah.
marathons,
Yep,
stuff
that's
like
right.
that. Now, I first met you. I don't know if you remember. They had a large gathering up there at WFNK where everybody was there. Tina, everybody. We took this big, large picture with everybody.
Okay, okay. You talking about being
Dirty,
at WHCR,
right,
WHCR.
right. It
Right.
was Dirty Fingers was there.
Right, hey,
Everybody
yep.
was there, and I distinctly remembered. And I said, "Wow, this is quite an establishment." So we're going to take it forward, and let's talk about a celebration of life, and how did you actually incorporate that, and the energy that you're actually putting out for that.
Yeah, I thank you for that question. And that brings us to where I am today with the photography. Like I said, I started the photography in 1995. And in 2010, my favorite uncle passed away in Baltimore. And I shot his funeral, and I created a book from that funeral for my aunt as a gift. And when I gave her that gift, um, as she went through the pages, she said she didn't remember half the people that was in the book. She did not remember all these people, and some of them was her people she worked with on a job with. She didn't remember them coming to the funeral.
Wow.
So that sparked a light bulb went off in my head, saying,
Okay.
"Wow, if she doesn't remember, how many other families, grieving families that sit on that front row, do not remember half the stuff that goes on at a homegoing service?"
Hmm.
So that started me down that road of what is funeral photography? Has it ever been done before? Where did it started? And I found out that funeral photography is the second oldest genre of photography
Okay.
that there is. It started in the 1800s. At the same time, photography started in the 1800s. And one of the first things that people did was ask photographers to take pictures of them with their deceased loved one.
Right.
Because when somebody passed away, it could be months before families travel together to, and they might not have met that loved one.
Right.
So what families started doing, they went from painting to using photography to take a group family portrait with the deceased. And that's what they held on to as other family members came to visit. And they would say, hey, that was your cousin or whatever. And so that's where funeral photography first started from in the 1800s. And as we got more into the 1900s and with the Polaroid and the instant photography, more and more people moved away from having photographers do that. So in my study about funeral photography, I ran across an African-American photographer by the name of James Fantasy. James Fantasy. He was one of the most prolific Harlem Renaissance photographers. And he's known for his work in the Harlem Renaissance. But as I looked through his work, I saw that he took pictures at funerals too. And so that again encouraged me that maybe this is something that is untapped. Is not. I've never heard of a funeral photographer before, and that started me down this road. And so since 2010, I've been shooting funerals. 2013, I officially became a funeral photographer specialist. There are about 50 of us, less than 50 of us around the world. Around the world that call themselves, market themselves as funeral photographers. And there's a difference between specialists and people who just might be good photographers who shoot a funeral. There's a big difference.
So listen, we're going to take a little break. And like I said, this is Tyrone Lowe, and this is my show, The Legends. And my guest today is Dr. Dee.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be right back.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
Grooving up slowly, he got juju eyeball, he won holy roller, he got hair down to his knee. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please, yeah. He went on shoe shine, he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger, he shoot Coca-Cola, he say, I know you know me. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. Come together right now over me. He bad production, he got Warris Gumbo, he got Ono sideboard, he won Spinal Cracker, he got feet down below his knee. Hold you in his armchair, you can feel his disease. Come together right now over me. one and one is three. Got to be good looking 'cause she's so hard to see. Come together right now over me. Oh, oh yeah. Come together. In every moment we need to come together. You and me, we need to come together. Yeah. We gotta come together. Yeah. In every moment. Yeah. Everybody. You know we gotta. You know we need it. You know we gotta. Hey. You know we gotta. You know we need to. We gotta come together. We can't do it all by ourselves. No. We gotta come. We gotta be everybody. Let's get together. Yeah. Let's get together. Yeah. Let's come. No. Yeah. For you. For me. For every soul. Everybody. Let's come together.
Oh my god.
Bad,
No,
but
we're badasses with badasses.
okay. I don't give her permission to say those words.
My grandfather was a case in that study. He worked as a firefighter where the Tuskegee Airmen trained. He and I were phenomenally close. The syphilis study happened for 40 years. Penicillin was found to be the most effective treatment, but the men were denied the treatment. Interestingly enough, I've had someone tell me that they were concerned about getting the vaccine because of the syphilis study. And I always, try to educate or provide some information about what happened. But then I said, you're talking about something that happened to my family. And I've taken both of my vaccines. I'm doing this for them. Health is greater than wealth, and it's really up to us to take ownership of our health and this story.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house.
Hey, we're back. My name is Tyrone Lowe. This is my show, The Legends. And you guys go out there, support Yaya Diamond on her track. Come Together is on all different platforms right now. The video is out, so support the sister, We're back and we are interviewing Duane Knight, aka Dr. Dee. So listen, let me ask you a question, man.
Yes, sir.
Due to the fact that the pandemic and all these things are actually a ritual of our lives right now, is it stopping you from your craft of photography right now?
On 2020 it definitely did.
Okay.
And the reason for that was because at that time, because you had limited people were allowed to come into the services, so more people opted to do the Zoom and the videos. So because more people needed the Zoom and the video, less people went for the photography aspect. But since we've been In 2021, the doors have been opening again, and more people are allowed to come into the services. People have gone back to capturing those services with photography. And our motto at Your Legacy Photography is that we help grieving families heal through photographies, photography, and that's what people who really understand the nature and the value and the legacy that can happen with photography. Those are the people that usually seek us out to capture those special moments.
My question to you is because due to the fact you're in that field, did you have any second thoughts about in the beginning of doing something post mortem?
Again, when you study the history of funeral photography, in the beginning, in the 1980s, it was the 1800s, excuse me, it was called post-mortem photography. That's
Okay,
what it started out being called. As like I said, as I studied people like James Fantasy, it became more funeral photography.
right.
And that's the term that most people understand today as as funeral photography. As a matter of fact, the book I did on funeral photography, it says about it has postmortem photography up there, and so that was one of the books where I wanted to bring back the art and the beauty of funeral photography. Most people, um, that's one of the books that I did for a family. Those are my legacy books. We do those books, 12 by 12 books for the families. Those are one of the style books that we produce when we capture funerals.
Okay. Um, we're not really allowed to really discuss prices on
Mhm.
Bronx Neck TV, but is it expensive or inexpensive, or do they have a moderate rate to work with somebody's budget?
Well, we do work with people's budgets, with people, but it is an investment. Photography as a whole, when you go into creating wall pictures, when you go into creating books, it goes more like an investment. Is if you're just shooting and you put it on social media, you put it in your cell phones, nah, there's not that much of a cost to do that.
Right,
But when you come from the old school, like I do, where print is important, I'm a fan of print. There's nothing like having a print in your hand. So
right.
whether that's a print on your wall or print in a book, it is an investment. Is not cheap, but it's well worth the investment. I've had one family I shot their services for their loved one. Their husband had died, and when I presented the book, the legacy book, to the wife, I'm told by the family members that she looks at that book every single day.
Wow.
Every single day. I've had um, family members that look at the book and they're crying when they look through the book because they don't remember all of this. A lot of this is new. A lot of this they kind of remember. And
Right.
there's so much that goes on, so many acts of kindness, so many acts of compassion that goes on at a homegoing service that, again, the grieving families don't even remember half of it.
Wow.
And so I had one mother who pulled me over and said, "Do you see this picture you took here? This is me and my first cousin. He's no longer here, and this is the only picture that I have with him." So there's a lot of value in doing capturing those special moments at funerals, because most people think of funeral photography, they think of caskets, crying, and grieving. There's much more to that. There's a beauty to the side of funeral photography that most people don't even recognize. And the value is that once we capture them and put them in a legacy book, those books can last for generations and generations to come.
Okay. So let's talk about some current events for Dr. D. What's coming up? Anything you want to leak out to the viewers?
Well, being a documentarian, that's what I call my. Oh, I've been called a photo documentarian, especially in the field of gospel music, faith-based music. I'm working on a personal project on gospel house music. When I again being on radio with WHCR and Funk Nation Radio, I've come across a lot of DJs and artists in the gospel house industry. And just like in 1995, when I did the first photography book on gospel music, there's not many photography books. They're black and white, most of them, and they're more text. But my books are all based on photography. So right now I'm working on doing a photography book on gospel music. I call it the gospel music experience, telling the stories of the DJs and the artists who are in gospel music. And again, if you go to the bookstores and you try, yeah, that's the first one. That's the first book on gospel music industry. That's a photography book, full color, based on photos. And again, if you go to the bookstore, you try to find a book on gospel music or gospel house that's based on photography, you cannot find it. So that's one of my personal projects, is to document people, the DJs, the music, and even the artists that are in gospel house music right now.
You know, I just put out one about a couple of days ago. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You know, I put out quite a few. I think it was Gospel number 38 I just put out about 2 days ago.
Okay.
You know? So, any shout outs to anyone, Doc?
Well, I got to shout out my beautiful wife, Elder Gloria McCray Knight. That's my beautiful wife of 22 years this year. We've been married 22 years. Of course, all the people, like you said, Tina Dixon, Boo Boo, shout her out. All the crew over yeah, that's my beautiful wife. She makes me look good all the time. Shout out all those at Funk Nation Radio that make that the station. We call ourselves a party in your pocket DJ programming on a radio format. Again, Dirty Fingers, DJ Rome, DJ Dog, those are the members of the Function Sound that help keep that station doing what it do. But we have a number of DJs and radio hosts on the station that lend their time to produce shows and really give you a well-rounded variety of music on funknation.com. But I'd like to shout all of those out. It'd take me all day.
That's real cool, man.
All day
real
to
cool.
shout you guys out. But
all right,
yeah.
so listen, this has been another T-Love video production. This is my show, The Legends. This is my guest, Dr. D, a.k.a. Duane. I call him Duane, you know. But listen, I thank you guys for really participating in the show and listening. And thank you, Duane, for being so informative. And this has been another T-Love video production. And y'all guys just come back and tune in for another episode. Thank you. I'll see you
Good to
guys
be
later.
here. Thank you.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.